been a night. So thank you, live viewers. We will be getting started in just a second. The computer turned off. We'll talk about it at the top of the show. All right. I think I have everything in place that I need. If you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right. Hit start. This week, Apple is maliciously complying, Microsoft is laying off eSports, Google is clearing the cache, and UMG is silencing TikTok. It is Sunday, February 4th, 2024, and this is episode 661 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. Nope. For some reason, it switched inputs on me. We'll do this again. Mm-hmm. This is going to be one of those nights, everybody. This week, Apple is maliciously complying, Microsoft is laying off eSports, Google is clearing the cache, and UMG is silencing TikTok. It's Sunday, February 4th, 2024, and this is episode 661 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, X, or Instagram, through our live streaming services, livestream.com, Twitch, Kick, or YouTube, where you can join the community and get ad-free episodes of F5 Live and Piltch, plus interviews as they're edited, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. And of course, you'll find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. We are back, Avram. It is good to be back. We saw each other a couple weeks ago during CES, but we haven't been on the air together in a while. It's good to be back.
Yeah. Oh, it's great to be back. I'm so glad to be back. And so I'm sorry we didn't get to spend more time though at CES. How has it been after CES? Did you get sick like everybody else?
No, I got nothing this year. I came home. So on day 4 on air, my nose was running to the point where every time the camera cut away from me, I had a Kleenex, right? But that is the extent. And that was just dry air. I didn't actually get sick at all. First time in years at CES I've come home and not been wiped out. Right. The fact that I didn't get more than 100 feet away from the booth may have helped. But yeah, first time. I'm guessing you got sick?
Yep. No, actually I didn't.
Oh, good.
I didn't get sick either. Everybody I was with got sick.
Oh, yeah?
But I didn't get sick, so fortunate for me. But
yeah, for sure.
I mean, it was great to go. I was so excited to go. I had a wonderful trip. Too short, but I had a wonderful trip. I got to see a lot of great people in person. I also got to meet Evan Upton, the CEO of Raspberry Pi, in person, which I hadn't done before, which is neat. He and I had lunch on Thursday. So yeah, it was a cool event. Um, it was great to go. Now I'm looking forward to going to Computex at the end of May, which you should go to.
I know there's some issues, but yes, I definitely Computex is on my short list of shows to do. You've always talked it up. I It's definitely on my short
Yeah,
list.
yeah. I mean, it's really great to go there, and of course, for me, it's been like 4 years, 5 years. 2019 was the last time I went to Computex. So
Yeah,
if I go
wow.
this year, it'll be have been 5 years. Wow, time flies.
Yeah, it does.
Uh, you know, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that again. And but it was a interesting show. I mean, I think it wasn't. Obviously everybody wanted to talk about AI stuff, but
Yeah,
honestly, uh, it was as usual more hype than serious,
sure.
except for companies like Intel touting their ability of their chips to do AI stuff. But you know, everything has its hype, right?
Yeah, for sure. We had on the broadcast, we had a really what was the name of the company? Brain Chip.
Hmm.
We had a company that they make um, they make silicon for AI. They have for a while. They're currently on the second generation of their hardware, and it sounded like it was like a unique take on it. I think that interview is scheduled for publication tomorrow. But it was really. Let me see if I'm correct on that. Number 30. Yeah, I think it might be scheduled for tomorrow or the day after. Really interesting. It's like future looking hardware, which is a fascinating concept. They compared themselves both price wise and power wise to Nvidia. I just don't remember what the comparison was. We did. I don't know if you've heard this. Some of the audience has seen me talk about it during the show. We did 121 live interviews this year in four
Wow.
days. So
Wow. Well,
some of it blurs.
things really, I have to say, things really changed. So I say things kind of changed um, for me because we don't do really like it hasn't been sort of a corporate focus for us to do video. So we don't have a video like some of our colleagues at like Tom's Guide. They have videographers and stuff, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't. And so when we have a very limited number of people there, we're not going and shooting videos, and so it makes it in a way less intense. But on the other hand, like when we shot video, we had all this material
Yeah.
to send to someone or to upload or whatever. And now it's been sort of like, oh, okay, well, we better rush to get this stuff, like to write an article and get the photos up and so on. And we did, so I think it worked out okay for us. I mean, there's some things I do wish we had video of because there's some things that are more, I don't know, video friendly than like good to see on video than others.
Yeah.
Like, for a keyboard, you probably never need to see it on video, but
Right.
uh, for a lot of the components that we look at, you probably never need to see it on video. But like, there when my colleague Sarah was using like this $20,000 racing chair to play a racing sim, that might have been like a good thing to get to do a video on.
Yeah.
So um so I could see you know I could see the need for it. But yeah, it was a nice trip. Uh, excited to go. Excited to go on another trip soon.
It was definitely good to have you back, bud.
Yeah, good to be back. Really good to be back. So
Definitely missed you. On that topic, like I said, there's still a lot of content coming. You know, a lot of this stuff isn't coming till Q2, Q3, Q4. So we release them 3 a day until we're done. So definitely check it out. PLUGHITZlive.com/CES. If you're on our YouTube page, the content's there as well. And if you're a member on YouTube, you get them as they are edited, not as they're published. So you actually get all the interviews long ahead of everybody else. So a nice way to to help us out and also get content faster. So definitely consider that. I think it's like $5 or something like that. So anyway, we got a lot of stuff to get to. It's been a kind of wild week and a half. So I think it's time to get down to it. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. The battle between Apple and the European Union has been an interesting one and a fairly consistent one. It seems like every time we turn around, the EU is doing something to swipe at Apple, and Apple's figuring out how to swipe right back at them. Recently, the iPhone 15 came out, big deal. 15? Yeah. It's got USB-C instead of a Lightning connection. That's because of the EU. They mandated universal chargers, and so Apple begrudgingly complied. They had some ideas on limiting the scope. If you plugged in with not one of their chargers, it would charge slower or whatever, and the EU said, nope, that's not going to work. So they just went normal like everybody else. The most recent battleground for these two has been the most recent update to the Digital Markets Act. The last update was passed, I think, at the end of 2022. And what it did was targeted what they're referring to as gatekeepers. If you've been watching or listening to this show for an extended period of time, you have heard Avram and I refer to it as a walled garden. But gatekeepers would be companies that shut consumers out from being able to access certain services, certain core services outside of their own. So, in the case of Apple, we're talking the App Store. Now, this is a separate, but probably instigated by, separate situation from the Epic Games lawsuit against both Google and Apple, who have fought over whether or not you should be able to publish an app to the iPhone or Android device and not use that company's payment system. Apple and Google both say if you try to use something else, Apple in particular, as the primary, then you're out. And so that almost certainly instigated this. And so now the EU says you have to be able to install external app stores, and developers have to be able to use external payment methods. Now, on the surface, that sounds like it would be a big win for consumers and developers alike. Everybody should be happy, except Apple. And when Apple gets backed into a corner, they definitely turn into a scared dog and start biting. So, what did they do in this case? They implemented policies that definitely benefit them even with the law. So, if you publish through another app store for iOS or any of its sub versions, iPad OS, TV OS, whatever. If you publish through a independent third-party app store, you have to pay £0.50 per user per year to Apple. And if you use a payment system that's not Apple's, you have to pay another £0.50 per user per year. So, imagine that you are a game. Let's say, I don't know, a little game like Fortnite. And you've got millions of users.
A little game.
Yeah, right? You've got millions of users. And Apple won't let you in the App Store at all. So your only choice is to distribute third party. And your whole goal has been to use a third party payment system. You have to pay £1 per user per year for the privilege to not use their infrastructure. Everybody's upset. Everybody has had something to say about this. You got some of my favorites here. Eric Sweeney from Epic Games. What did he call it? A horror show and hot garbage. Xbox president Sarah Bond, who, by the way, might have the best username on X. It's Bond, Sarah Bond. She said, "We believe constructive conversations drive change and progress toward open platforms. Apple's new policy is a step in the wrong direction. We hope they listen to feedback on their proposed plan and work toward a more inclusive future for all." Her comment was in response to Daniel Ek, the CEO and founder of Spotify, who said, after sitting with our legal team, not a great start, after sitting with our legal team to parse through the fine print of Apple's DMA announcement, that took a while, which is, at best, vague and misleading, I wanted to share my thoughts. While Apple has behaved badly for years, what they did yesterday represents a new low even for them. Oof. So everybody's unhappy about this, including the EU, by the way, who has said, we will be watching the developments on this and taking appropriate action if necessary. I don't think these rules are going into place, Avram. I definitely have a feeling.
Yeah, they're trying to skirt
that.
They're trying to skirt around it, aren't they? I mean, yeah. I think that's pretty clear. I think it's pretty clear that they're just trying to skirt around it. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not at all.
This is the company who said when they implemented USB-C on the iPhone that they were considering, well, they didn't say, but there were internal developments and talks saying, if you use not an Apple branded USB-C cable, we'll charge it slower.
Well, you know what? They're not the only ones who've done that. I believe HP did that for a while, so I'm not going to completely, but I'm not going to completely damn them for. I mean, it's bad when anyone does it, but
HP did it before the law went into effect, so that was a difference.
Well, yeah. I mean, and they all have their reasoning, right? I remember when HP did, well, we don't know that other people's USB-C stuff is safe. I remember hearing. Yeah, sure thing. We don't know if it's safe.
So
whatever you say.
Here's the thing. Qi, the wireless charging group, right? The Wireless Power Consortium. She says the same thing. However, the way they solve it is by having a certification process. You can make it, it'll work, everything will behave exactly as the designer intends it to. If it's not certified, but if it is certified, you know that it is properly functioning and has been tested across a wide range of devices. Independently tested.
Yeah,
they didn't try and slow down your charging. They just said it could be a bad idea. Not necessarily. It could be a bad idea. But a certified one, you know it'll work. You know that it's going to be safe. I think that was a smart way of going.
Yeah, I mean, look, especially every time I go to CES, one group that I always meet with is the USB Implementer Forum, and that is their whole job is to do certifications of cables and certifications of chargers. And obviously, most companies don't pay for it, don't pay for the certification, but they can. That's what they're there to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you want that confidence and peace of mind, you go with the certification. But I mean, to step down the capabilities at the device level because you don't know the cable, that's crazy. Yeah, especially after the law went into place, right? And the EU, I can't remember who it was, the industry chief. Terry, Thierry, Terry, I don't know, Breton, basically said, this follows the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. So, yeah, we're going to see how this goes. Definitely an interesting move. I think it was a bad move. People already have their weird suspicions about Apple, and anytime you can do something, they can do something to confirm it. It seems like a mistake. You should just try not to confirm people's negative beliefs about you. Is probably the best thing I can say.
Yep.
We'll see. The important thing to note here is this only applies to countries within the EU. If you're in the UK or anywhere else outside the EU, this feature is not coming for you. So, write your Congress people and tell them we want our own version of DMA if you want this here in the States or in your country. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, it's been a little while since we've had a Piltch Point.
Yeah.
What have you been working on?
So I've been spending a lot of time the last week or two trying to find new ways to program things to be efficient. I do this all the time, but I don't know. It was my birthday a couple weeks ago, and I found it depressing, as I always do. So I was like, what can I do to program something that people will appreciate? So I programmed some things for folks at work, and while I was working on that, I was looking at how I can do more with macros. And I may have talked about this years ago, but there's a new version. There's a tool called, there's two things I want to talk about to help you. First of all, I'm a firm believer that anytime you can avoid using your mouse, and use your keyboard instead, you're saving time, you're saving your shoulder and your wrist or whatever from the strain of having to lunge over with your mouse, right? So if you can do something where you hit one key and it does something that would have required you to roll your mouse over and click, or to roll your mouse over and click and drag multiple times, wow, that's a lot of savings. So so the first thing I wanted to talk about is your numpad. Do you use the numpad on your keyboard? Do you have a numpad on your keyboard?
I have a numpad. I use the numpad all the time. In fact, at Strike, we have a couple of computers that don't have it. And like when I go to log in, I smack the desk because I keep expecting the number pad to be there.
What do you use it for?
I use it a lot when doing database work. I use it a lot when programming, and I use it a lot when logging into things. My hand just instinctively goes to the number pad.
So, I'm going to be honest with myself and say that I don't really use the number pad for numbers that much. I didn't have much of a use. I mean, and I do programming too and all that stuff, but I just find myself reaching up to the top to use the number row. Sure. Granted, back in the day when I was a cashier, I had the fastest hands in the West, and I would be typing in the SKU number. I had it all memorized, muscle memory. But so we know a lot of people now don't even have a numpad on their keyboard. If you have a laptop, there's a really good chance that you don't have one unless you've got a really big laptop. But let's say that you do. Well, you could actually be making, if you're not like Scott and you don't use it for numbers and you're thinking, what is this good for? You can remap the keys to do other stuff. So one thing that you can do, and this would apply across the board. So if there's other keys that you wish to remap, that's okay too. There's a program called Sharp Keys. I'm going to show you here. It's a little bit on my screen. That's a little hard to see because it's zoomed out. But what it does is it allows you to take any key on your keyboard and map it to become another key. So what I have done is I have remapped my 4, 5, and 6 on my number pad so that they are media keys, back, forward, and play pause, and the plus and minus on the number pad so that they're volume keys. And also the keyboard that I have doesn't have a print screen button, but it does have an insert button. I don't know about you, but I don't need the insert button ever because it's always on insert. Well, I don't want to toggle that off. So I changed insert to be print screen. And you can do that. So this is a nice free program called Sharp Keys that lets you do that. And then when you're done, you just click to add the key. You pick the key that you want to, or you pick or type the key that you want to go from, pick or type the key you want to go to. You hit OK. Then you hit write to registry. When you're done, you close this and you reboot. And you don't need to open Sharp Keys again because actually it's doing is writing a key to your registry to do this. So it doesn't have to be running all the time. You could go to your registry and do it, but it makes it a lot easier for you. Now, that's just remapping one key to another, but it's not macros. So let's talk macros for a second. I love AutoHotkey. Let me show you. So AutoHotkey, it is a free open source scripting language, right? And what you do, this is the documentation. What you do is you can download this. It runs, and then you can use any text editor of your choice, or they have one that is made specifically for this for writing scripts. And then with this, so let me show you, and then you can run the scripts. And what you can do is, the best thing is you just put one in your Windows startup folder, and then it will always be running when Windows starts. Here's a script I've been working on right now. So This is my favorite program of all time that I use for all my editing, which is Notepad++. I know some people use more complicated stuff, but it's my favorite program on Windows.
I have it open on my computer right now.
I mean, I just use this all the time, all day, every day. To be honest, I still haven't seen a reason why other stuff, like why even using professional quote unquote IDEs is better, because this is just nice, easy, and so you can get an autocomplete and syntax highlight for AutoHotkey language and install it, and so I did. So anyway, so what are some of these things that I'm having it do? So first of all, let's talk about the kinds of things you can do with it. So one, I wrote a function called WinChange, and what WinChange does is it not only does it launch an app, but it'll go straight to the to focus on that app. So let's say, for example, Slack, right? So I'm going to hit the key for Slack, which was 2 on my numpad, right? And you're not going to see it because on another monitor. But what it did was it went to drag this over here. It went to Slack. So like here, I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to hit the 2 button, and you see it opens it up again. If Slack were I didn't close it. I minimized it. So what it does is it brings the window focus to the window that you want, right? And if Slack was not open, and I just closed it, it would launch it, right? So it either focuses on it or launches it, depending on whether it's open or not, right? So that's one thing that I programmed to do. Another is to go to, but a lot of the apps that we use are actually Chrome tabs, right? Like we don't need, we don't, a lot of the things that we rely on are in the same app. They're in Chrome. So what do you do there? So I programmed a function called Chrome tab that will do this for you. So I assign one to my mail inbox and one to the PLUGHITZ upstream. So for PLUGHITZ upstream, I assign numpad 9. Watch what happens. So here you see I have Chrome open, but it's not on the correct tab, on the tab that I want. I'm going to hit numpad 9, and it's going to not do what I said because I'm showing it to you. Maybe, am I running it? Let's see. Okay. So what it should be doing, and is not, because I'm showing it to you. Do I have my numlock on or off? Is that it? Is it should be going straight there. Here, wait. I'll try the one for my inbox. See if that works. No, why not? Well, because I'm showing it to you, of course. But
it's the curse of the demo.
But what it's supposed to do here is actually go into, what it does do is it goes into Chrome. It will do the search for whatever I said. So like the upstream, and then click the first result, right? That's what it does.
That's fascinating.
So now, because I'm showing it to you, of course, it's not doing what I said. But other things that it will do is it will, I can assign the right control key to do different things than the left control key. So, for example, in most things, Control N is create a new one of something. But I don't know about you, but I don't use the right control button that much. So if you assign the right control button, I can assign the right control button to open Notepad++ or take me to it. Let's see if that worked. Oh, that did work. Look at that. See, I hit Control N and it changed it to Notepad++. Now, similarly,
but if you had used the left control, it would have opened a new tab in Chrome.
Or whatever I'm in, right?
Because that's what you were focused on. You were focused on Chrome at the time. Okay,
yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. So you see I'm focused on Chrome, but it just changed it to that. It just changed the focus to this, right? Similarly, similarly, like I have to use the pound sterling symbol at my job a lot because we work for a UK company, and so I assign Control 4 to be the pound symbol, right? Because we know that Shift 4 is the dollar symbol, but I could assign right Control 4. Why right Control 4? Because left Control 4 does other stuff, right? And once you do this, it kind of eliminates the original use case of it. But you can also program these things to actually like do something that here that will in a specific program. It's in a specific program. So, for example, here's another script I have, and it looks to see if the Notepad exe window is active, and if so, it will. If so, it will do this task. So this is for regular Notepad, and this is just a demo because nobody really wants to do this in real life. But so you see here, there's a status bar. Let's see if now, of course, watches won't do what it's supposed to. You see that? The status bar went away, came, went. What's actually happening really fast is that it is hitting Alt-V down and Enter. Well, Alt-V, if you know your keyboard shortcuts in Windows, if you have a menu up here, which most programs do, and you hit Alt and a letter, it'll open that letter, right? So Alt-V. Then I said hit down, right, and Enter. See? So Alt-V, down, Enter, right? But it's doing it so fast that you can't see that it actually happened, right? But the idea is, let's say there's something on one of these menus that you want to make a hotkey for, and there's no hotkey for it. Well, this will do that. For example, I like to use Photoshop Elements, and it has no hotkey for crop. Really annoying because I'm always highlighting stuff and I want to crop it. I don't want to roll my mouse over to the crop menu and do this. So I programmed something where it will just hit the right key combination to do it through the keyboard, and it does it so fast that you don't even see the menus opening. Another thing you can do, obviously, is repetitive text, like your address. So like here I've programmed, this is for if the numpad up means if numlock is off, and you'll see that it put in an address, right? They just sent this text. So you can see there's a lot that you can do with auto hotkey to kind of program it to do things that only menus could do, to do things that are faster, to kind of change your window focus, not just launch new apps, and to kind of do things specifically within an app. So like this one here with the numpad page up, it only runs that if I'm in Notepad. If I'm in another program and I hit that key, I could have it do something else, or nothing at all, or not have it do it at all. But anyway, I have a story up on right now about how to remap your numpad and do a lot of this stuff on the homepage at Tom's Hardware. And I definitely recommend folks, and I'll be doing some more stories about auto hotkey, although I know not a lot of people, not everybody reads them, but I also recommend folks go to autohotkey.com, download the software, read the documentation. There's version 1.1 has been deprecated, so follow the version 2.0 coding instructions, which have different syntax. Anyway, what do you think, Scott? Is that stuff that you could make use out of?
Yes. So I'm instantly curious about a couple of things. Like, can I target a pinned WPA? Things like that. So as you're talking, I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder if I can do this with it. I wonder if I can do that with it. Can I target the buttons on a Stream Deck with it? Because, the capabilities here are significantly wider than those.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you have to look and see. They have shortcuts for a bunch of things. You also, I think, can actually. I think there's like a bit code or whatever that every key has, so you could theoretically just use the bit code to assign something to it. So if you know what the bit code is, I mean, I actually would love to figure out. I don't have anything with the new Copilot key. Do
Mm-hmm.
you?
No,
Yes or no?
no,
Because
not
I'd
yet.
love to know what the bit code is for that. Then I would do a story on how to reassign your Copilot key or how to turn something else into your Copilot key. Uh, um, Not that I think anyone needs a Copilot key, um, but that's a key on the keyboard. So yes, you can do stuff. You can do things like that, um, and it's very specific. Obviously, like it will target the numpad number one is a different target than number one on the number row, and you can target the number pad with numlock on or numlock off as different different mappings, right? um, so, and like I said, you can assign something specifically to the right control or right alt, uh, different than the left control or left alt. And I was surveying, I don't know about you, I was thinking about this myself and surveying my colleagues, and I found that almost nobody ever uses the right control or right alt keys.
Oh yeah, I get that. I so much so that earlier when I was in Premiere, I have to Control M, and I'm doing it from the left side as I'm just talking. Control M to export the media, and I realized, oh, I could do it one-handed if I did it from the right. I do it all the time, Avram. And it took me until this afternoon to realize, oh, right, there's a control on the right. I can do it one-handed.
Right. So that's the thing. Like I feel like people are not using it, and I had to check myself because obviously it's kind of unconscious, but I don't think I ever use them. And so like you could assign them to do something else, to be a different modifier, which we need because unfortunately a lot of the existing possible keyboard shortcuts are taken, right? Like you're in a document, you're like, oh man, I really wish I could do something control, T to do something, but it's new tab or whatever. Or I wish
Mm-hmm.
I could assign, I mean, especially if you want to do something that's across the operating system, um, then you have to be conscientious of, is this a keyboard shortcut in any application where I'm going to override it or lose it or whatever.
Right.
The one thing that auto hotkey does not seem to be able to do to my satisfaction so far is it. So you saw how I had it do the tab thing, right? And how I had it do the tab thing was I have it actually open, hit Control Shift A, which in Chrome opens the tab search menu, and then search, and then click the first result, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's a little annoying because what I'd like it to be able to do is to be able to toggle all the tabs that have that. So let's say you had Google Docs, right? And like that's a big thing for me is losing my Google Docs tab, right? So if you could assign it to find Google Docs, but it will only go to the whatever the first result is. I can't easily make it so that like if you hit it 3 times, you go to the third one. You know what I mean? Like I want it to be kind of like Alt Tab, where if you hit it
Yeah.
3 times, 3 times you go to the third one that matches that description. So if you've got a whole bunch of, let's say, tabs that are that have Google Docs open in them, you can just hit the button until you get to it. Um, I have not found a good way to do that. What I can do to do that, and I may very well do to do that, is to make a Chrome extension that does it. But then you'd have to be in Chrome first to actually use it.
Mm-hmm.
But but assuming that you were in a Chrome window. Like I've done this already for my job, where I have a key where, like for our CMS, you hit I think it's control. Is it? I forget what did I assign to it. Control V, not Control V, Control T, maybe, to switch tabs, which actually should open a new tab. But anyway, it switches you. Like it'll toggle you to the latest CMS tab that you had open, and then if you hit it again, it goes to the previous one. It actually recalls how long it's been since you visited each tab, so it does it in kind of reverse order of like the soonest, the most recent one that you visited. But if you have 3 CMS tabs open and you hit it 3 times, you'll get onto the third one. So I could, using Chrome's API, I definitely could do that. But using Auto Hotkey, which runs at the operating system level, it can't do that in your browser. It can only, and it can't, unfortunately, read the text of the tabs. It can read the title bar text of the window, but it can't read the text of the tabs. So unless the tab is the focus tab of that window, it won't find it. The only way to find it is, the only way I had to do it was to have it do it like a person would and hit Control-Shift-A and search for it. Right. So, sure. And then if it doesn't find it, it actually opens a new tab and puts that URL in and opens it. But anyway, so it is effectively an invisible hand that does what you might do, but for you.
An invisible hand. Yeah, that's a... So I have long had keyboards with extra keys on them, especially for programming. And I have done this with the macro keys on like Logitech keyboards for years, for menus in particular. Like you showed off the status bar. For menu options that didn't have hotkeys in Visual Studio, to the point where Visual Studio has started doing like these double key shortcuts. So basically everything has one now, because so many people were specifically buying Logitech G Series keyboards with all the orange keys on the left or across the top or whatever, because there were so many things that we wanted to have happen. Clean and rebuild. Clean and rebuild for years didn't have
so ridiculous
keyboard shortcuts. So we would make them. We'd map them ourselves, doing Alt B whatever. So, and then macro that onto a keyboard, onto an M key.
I'm trying to find in my drawer here, which I don't think I have it like right at hand, unfortunately. I need to set this up, but it's just not the same height as my keyboard, so that's annoying. Is I have a Adafruit. I think I've shown this on the show a while ago. RP2040 macro keyboard, and that has basically it has, I think, 9 keys, and you can attach it to USB, and if you program it, like basically it doesn't do anything unless you program it, because you have to program it in Python, but you could program it in Python to make those keys any keys you want. So what I do is I program them to be keys F13 through 24.
Yeah.
There's only 9 of them. Maybe it's F13 through 22, but for those who don't know, Windows recognizes function keys up to function key 24, because there used to be, and you could still buy one somewhere, keyboards that had a second 24 function keys, old terminal keyboards, right? And I kind of want one because I want those extra keys. So what you could do is you could make those keys be seen as other function keys, and then you could go into Auto Hotkey, and then you could program them there. Whereas if you just have them seen as like number keys or whatever, then it's not going to do you a lot of good, because they're going to be seen as the same number keys as your number pad.
Now, there's a lot of companies. You mentioned the Steam Deck, which is cool. There's a lot of companies out there that are making like numeric keypads and programmable numeric keypads that you can put on the side of your keyboard. And what you could do with one of those is you could use sharp keys, which I just showed you, to remap the keys so that they're F keys, and then you could program them. Because if you leave them at the default of being numbers, then they're gonna, and you program numpad 1 to do something, the numpad 1 on the external one and the numpad 1 on your regular keyboard, if you have a numpad there, are just going to do the same thing. So yeah, you got to like, you mentioned the extra functions on the Logitech G, and I think they give you like 5, but I feel like you could never have enough buttons, because if you have more, you can do fewer modifiers. You could just hit one button and have it do something. The thing that I most want to do with it, but I just haven't been doing a lot lately, is but I will, I'm sure, again, is use them for Linux commands, because there's so much repetitive typing when you're doing Linux commands. And let's say you've got to launch a virtual environment, and then you've got to change it to directory, and then you've got to do this and that, and like there's so much very heavy typing of the same stuff over and over again. It's very, very annoying. So I think
great idea
using it, and you could have it so that those keys only, depending on what the program is you're using. Of course, this is assuming that AutoHotkey is a Windows program. I don't know if there's a Linux version of it or anything. I don't think so. So I think the point there would be assuming you're running Linux in a terminal window from a Windows desktop, like you're using Windows, was it subsystem for Linux subsystem for Windows, sorry, something like that. But nevertheless, I'm doing that all the time. So, there have been times when I have. So yeah, like I think that's a good use of it. So anyway, yeah, I recommend folks check out AutoHotkey. It's really worth the time that you put into it, because then, every day, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person who I will spend and this is not going to be that time consuming, but I will spend like 10 hours to figure out how to save 30 seconds every day.
Yep.
Like, I can't bear the human doing the repetitive work. It's like, I could do this. I could have a shortcut to do this. Why don't I?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, okay, so I'm literally sitting here with the largest of the Stream Decks to my right. I have a mid-size one up in the office. Yes, buttons are good. And I have, so you mentioned 5 or 6 macro keys on the Logitech. I have one of the older ones that actually has 2 rows. They haven't made it in a while. But I definitely have one that has 2 rows of orange keys on the left side. So, when they discontinued them, I bought a bunch of them. Just to make sure I didn't lose them.
I really wish that, and I've been looking around. I haven't seen like a good mechanical keyboard come out that has the extra function row. I would get one in a heartbeat that had the. Now you can buy, for those who are really interested, if you go to pckeyboard.com, this company sells, like, basically manufactures old IBM Model M style VT122 terminal keyboards. I don't even think they have a Windows key on them, and they're behemoths, and you can't change the switches, although those switches that it comes with are pretty good. But nevertheless, so you could get it that way. But I kind of like my my Kale box switches now, so I'd really like to see somebody make like a keyboard kit that has extra keys in it. But the keyboard world seems to be going in the opposite direction, where you see more and more keyboards that have that don't have a number pad at all, or don't even have a function row. And I don't get it. Like, if people have so little space on their desk that they can't
Right.
bear to have an extra few buttons, come on.
Right.
Or the low profile keyboards, I don't get those either. Do you not have air rights to your desk that you're worried about, like an extra like half inch of vertical space?
Worried
Like,
about a
what's
helicopter
happening
coming
over here? Yeah, what's happening over here that you can't bear to have your keycap or your switch be a full like 4 millimeters, that you need to get it down to like 1 millimeter of travel and the keys be totally flat? And what, like,
No fly
I
zone.
mean, even with a keyboard drawer, you have room. So I don't understand that one.
They live too close to an airport.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep coming up with them for as long as we talk about it.
I don't get it. You know, like,
Yeah,
there's some things that are
dumb.
cute in life, and I just don't get them. Like, I used to really think that mini PCs were cute. I was like, oh, isn't it so cute? You could fit the Intel NUC, you could fit a little computer and something this size. And then I started to look at how much it costs to, you know, to build to build these, you know, that you pay premium for a mini PC. It's like, do you really save that much space? That like, I guess if you're running a lab and you had desks that were really close together, like some kind of internet cafe, maybe. But then you could just put
or you need to mount them into a television, or there are some very, very specific purposes. But outside of that, that's not how they tried to market them.
Right. I mean, I just don't see how it's like a regular consumer or even a regular business would need that. Like, if you really need to save desk space, put your computer on the floor, get a tower and put your computer on the floor, problem solved. So, like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm all about the buttons. Always have been, always will be.
Just as a note, I am doing research on what is going to be triggered on the Copilot key. I got Power Tools open, or Power Toys. I'm all kinds of things to try and figure out what that key is going to be. Trying to see if I can send the command so I can then trap it. Anyway, one way or another, I'm going to have this figured out. But this was fun, Avram. It gives me a lot of interesting things to consider. I always forget that you can pull back the additional function keys, which for what we do is really interesting because the function keys are hard cuts, and theoretically you only have a certain number of inputs, and I already have too many just in this view. 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I have 13 inputs on here, and I hadn't considered that I could just map the additional function keys to make that work. So I always love these conversations. They're always a ton of fun. I never know what interesting new thing I'm going to learn. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about and what I learn next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. To tie back to the last topic for a second, for example, I wonder if there's keyboard shortcuts for me to make adjustments to our position on the screen. Anyway, Last week, not this past week, but the week before, Microsoft announced layoffs in their gaming division. This was mostly expected, probably inevitable. They made a big purchase. The Activision Blizzard acquisition was completed. There's always going to be redundancies. There's going to be duplicates. So some was expected. 1,900 was, I think, more than most people expected to see. And, Microsoft, for their part, did say, the point was to deal with dupes. Makes sense. However, as it turns out, the Activision Blizzard eSports division seems to have been wiped off the face of the earth. If not everybody, most everybody. If you go check LinkedIn profiles and Twitter accounts or X accounts, you will see those people talking about no longer being with the company. And if you know anything about Microsoft and their gaming division, they don't really have their own version. So this wasn't a duplicate. This was just a full-on purge of the division. Been a lot of talk about why. We are in what is being called by many an esports winter. There are lots of problems in the industry. Viewership, particularly on the ActiBliz products, is down. Player count is down. Team count is down. They've really struggled. But it's kind of that way across the industry. Being in the industry, I can tell you, finding money is hard. Finding support is hard right now. And a lot of it comes down to some pretty massive mishandling and probably misunderstanding of the industry from ActiBliz and this particular team. One of our former co-hosts from many years ago, Adam, has been involved in the esports industry since before the term was involved, and he has long complained about ActiBliz's consistent mishandling of the industry, of sponsors, of teams, of owners, of players, of events, and that they had almost single-handedly driven what is now an esports winter. And so it's possible that this purge was because Microsoft's like, nope, if we're going to do this, we're going to start from zero. I don't know. It's definitely interesting in a purge that was supposed to be of dupes to essentially nix a division that doesn't have an equivalent. It's a big decision.
So it's been a really bloody couple of weeks in the whole tech industry. So while obviously jobs report for January showed a lot of jobs being created, but in the tech sector and in the media sector, not so good.
Gaming,
but
in particular.
I was really yes, but I mean, like a lot of my colleagues at other publications, have experienced layoffs. And like you see it happen at, I think, Washington Post and Wall Street Journal, and I think Business Insider and
the LA Times.
LA Times.
Like one floor of the building is empty now or something. Like
I think like Geo. So like there's
Sports
just been a ton.
Sports Illustrated is almost entirely out of business.
Right. Well, yeah. So it's been a disaster, but all I can think about with it is the story that I just saw on NPR called that explains layoffs as contagious. So it's unfortunately kind of one of the problems with I don't know, I would say that it's a problem with being a public company, but I think private companies that have, private equity or whatever doing the same thing, which is they have a board, they have investors. Investors, I don't know, they're not, I don't know, whatever. They like to see people get laid off, not really thinking about the human cost or even the future of the business cost of layoffs. And so, oh, hey, Microsoft laid people off. Well, how many are you going to lay off? Oh, hey, your competitor over here laid people off. How many are you going to lay off?
Yeah.
Right? Now,
yeah, it always works.
you would think that there's something. You would think that, um, you know, people wouldn't reward something that's a clear sign of like, contraction in your business.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happens a lot is, that people aren't taking a long-term or even a near midterm view of business operations. Like, oh, well, if we have products that are out there in the market or whatever, and we lay people off, the problem is very often, I wouldn't say always, but very often with layoffs, the problems that it causes aren't apparent to the bottom line and the public for a little while, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the problem it causes to people within the company is immediate, but like, if you, like for example, if you're an entertainment company and you lay off a whole bunch of people whose job it was to, make, I don't know, movies for Netflix or whatever, but they've got like 6 months of new movies in the can. Right. Well, or with the writer strike, actor strike, right? Like people didn't really, I think we're going, like when it was going on, you didn't see as much damage from it as you're going to see, right, as the things follow the pipeline. And so unfortunately what happens is, especially, games with games or whatever, oh, we don't need all these people. We can have more profit this quarter by offloading those salaries. What unfortunately they never look at is once you take things away, it's not so easy to bring them back, right? It's not so easy to be like, oh, hey, we got rid of this whole division of people, and we realize that we can't actually perform that function well anymore. What are we going to do? Like, unfortunately, people are not like, machines, and you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't need this, I didn't need to order this much stuff. So this quarter I lowered the amount of beans that I ordered for my, for my company. Like, no, like once you get rid of people, it's hard to bring them back. Yeah. So
especially when a fear of another round exists, right? Because
that also
you wipe out 1,900 people, you close a studio, you cancel a game. All happened, right? The layoffs, by the way, weren't entirely at ActiBliz. ZeniMax took some, and Xbox internal took some too. Again, it was a reshuffling thing. But once they're gone, if you then start hiring, people look at the job listing and go, well, that's a trap. Because what if a second round comes, new guy, last in, first out.
Yeah. I mean, it's all bad. And then people who are there are probably thinking like, well, should I be putting out the resume to get a new job? On the other hand, if everybody in the industry is laying people off, it's not quite, where's the grass going to be greener? Right. If it's, depending on what type of industry you're in. Now, if you're, I was reading this thing about Google programmers, and Google is just laying people off left and right, even though they're making a ton of money, right? Again, they're playing this for the investors. Like, look, we can save money by getting rid of these people. Great. But
Great.
people who are developers for Google. I mean, I was reading some things about where like, oh, nobody's innovating here anymore because everybody knows they're going to be laid off, so they're not putting the extra time in.
Fair
but
enough.
It's not to their advantage. It's not to their advantage to quit, because some of them have things where like, oh yeah, some of them have employment contracts or something that say, hey, if you quit, you lose these benefits, but if we fire you, then you get them. So
yeah,
so they're hanging around, but they're not motivated.
I have a friend who worked for a small tech company, small in terms of company, employee size, but a very large tech company. And he was unhappy with the direction of the company. He was unhappy with, the technical oversight and things like that. But his stocks vested at a certain point.
Right.
And so he stuck around. Fortunately for him, the company ended up getting purchased and things got better under the new owners, and he's still there and his stock is long vested and things are good. But, it's one of those things, right? There's all these things, if you're getting any stock options, they may not vest for a period of time. So walking away now, they are completely worthless, but they might mature if you get downsized. All right, well, let's sit around and see what happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyway, it's not good. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible for it's terrible for the industry. It's terrible for the consumers. It's terrible for everybody. They're just doing some of these things. Perhaps they didn't need anymore, but frankly, we don't know that. There's just a good chance that they're just trying to hit a certain amount of money that they're saving, so that they can report something better to Wall Street, so their stock can go up, so the people who run it can get, and the big investors in the board can make a little bit more profit, a little on their investment, without thinking about what it's going to be like a year from now, and how they're hurting the business.
In terms of the team behind the eSports org, though, I think that was probably planned before they completed the merger, because of what a problem this particular group of people has been. Now, I don't know if the people themselves are a problem. There's a whole series of issues. The industry of esports has issues of sexual harassment and all kinds of things. And then ActiBliz has its own issues in that space. Plus, everything that this group produced, to quote our friend Eric Sweeney from earlier, hot garbage, right? Every event, everything that this group touched hurt the industry. So I suspect that this group, that of the 1,900, this was a very small, portion of it. Probably 50 or less of the 1,900 that were let go were from this group. But this group was wiped out.
I mean, they didn't have to
control A, delete. Like this section was wiped out, and I suspect it was planned by Microsoft before they finished the acquisition, because of the issues from within this division. If they want to be in esports, Microsoft, this team, some of the people maybe, I don't know that everybody is a problem, but this team was not the way to do it. My brother does not get mad at people he doesn't know very often, but he has a particular level of disdain for this group. I sent him the article before I published it just to make sure that I had gotten everything right. And he's like, I think you might have gone too soft on them.
Well, you know what? Yes, they had created a negative perception, but they're just a small amount of the people who were laid off. Mm-hmm. So, if they just wanted to target that group, they would have just targeted that group. Right?
Yeah, for sure. I think they hid this in a larger thing so people didn't go, because I think they were hoping that we wouldn't notice this. Right? But we did. So, I think they just wrapped it up in, announcing we're doing 1,900 layoffs. And they were kind of hoping to get under the radar with this one, but they didn't. And the response that I've seen on this group seems to be positive. Like, I haven't seen anybody from outside ActiBliz go, oh, but they were doing such a great job.
Yeah.
That has been nobody's reaction. So I guess the takeaway is I look forward to seeing, because, they have Microsoft now owns 2 brands that have a large presence in esports, right? Overwatch and Call of Duty. And they just wiped out the division that ran those leagues. So I'm interested to see what the next generation of this looks like. If they're going to contract with professionals who know what they're doing, if they're going to try and build something themselves, because they have other games that they could bring into the esports world that they have never tried. They could go the Nintendo route and partner with a company to be in charge. They could go the ActiBliz route and have their own internal team. I look forward to seeing how they deal with the next generation of this, because there's no way these 2 games disappear from esports. Somebody's going to take the lead, and under Microsoft's tutelage or just totally separate, like what had happened with, say, Smash up until recently. So be interesting to see what happens next. Obviously, we will keep people updated. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. Speaking of Google terminating things, they have recently terminated a long-standing program within the company, their web cache. You may have noticed over the years when you searched for just about anything, many of the pages would come up underneath and there would be a link to view the cached version of the page. Recently, that link went away, and people wondered why. The Google search on Twitter was asked, and they responded, yes, it's gone. The link is gone, and the cache is going away, which I find disappointing. We'll talk about why in a second. In the old days, the cache made sense. The web was volatile, right? If somebody sneezed too hard, a website might just disappear for a few minutes or a couple of hours. So the Google Web Cache, the Wayback Machine, Microsoft has a web cache. All those things kind of were necessary. But today, the web is way more dynamic than it used to be. It's also way more stable than it used to be. I can understand to a degree why Google might want to get out, But archiving the internet is an interesting thing. Being able to see the history of the web is fascinating. I use the Wayback Machine all the time.
Yeah, me too. But Google wasn't really doing that.
True. Internally,
they only gave you the most recent. They only gave you the most recent cache version. Right. So you still need the Wayback Machine. So I'm not 100%. I'm not so sad because I always use the Wayback Machine for this purpose.
Yeah, me too.
If the Wayback Machine goes away, then I'm going to cry.
Yeah, then we're in trouble. More than just cry. We're in trouble. Because I like to go back and see how bad I used to be at design.
But I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do now. I mean, one thing that's really interesting to me as I was reporting on AI and copyright, there was an interesting precedent-setting case. I'm trying to think, maybe this was like 20 years ago, where someone who ran like a website sued Google for the cache, for like that cache feature, saying that the cache feature was a copyright violation, copyright infringement, because they were displaying, they were copying and displaying the page. And they lost. I mean, Google won and the person lost because the court ruled that like, hey, this wasn't an adverse, use. It was whatever. But on the other hand, it's interesting in the context now where we have people suing for AI use, right? Now, I don't think it's the same thing at all because the cache, it's your website that they're caching, but they are sort of taking I mean, I guess the point is nobody really visits the cache anyway, unless they really need to. So I wouldn't say that the cache, like people were going to cache so they could avoid seeing ads or whatever. But they were,
and the behavior of the page is never right.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the things on like Wayback Machine. But I have to say that Wayback Machine, you can get around paywalls with Wayback Machine. So like, if you want to see like a New York Times article, you can go to Wayback Machine and you don't need to go through the paywall for that. I mean, that's not true for everything, but for anything that had for anything where there's sort of a free number of articles that you can see per month, whereas there's other things where you can't see even one article per month without going through the paywall. So I don't think that those are getting Wayback Machined. But on the other hand, that's kind of sad, right? Because they're not being preserved. So, but the Wayback Machine, like the Wayback Machine is really what should be doing that, not Google. So I'm not sad about it because it didn't really, like, I don't know who runs the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive. Are they a nonprofit? Like, I don't know. So I'd rather that a group like that be responsible for maintaining the history of the web than Google. And Google's not even maintaining the history. They were just showing the most recent copy. So I saw this and I saw some consternation about it, and I understand where that comes from. And I would be upset if we didn't have the Wayback Machine to do the same thing better.
Fair enough. That makes sense to me. I think depending on how much stuff Google has kept, right? Were they dumping old versions of the cache, or were they only showing you the most recent version? Right.
I mean, on a server somewhere, does it exist? Probably. They probably have it on storage somewhere.
I think it would be great if they gave that to the Internet Archive.
Sure. I mean, doesn't the Internet Archive already have it? Already have that information?
Maybe. There's a lot of stuff they don't cache. There's a lot of smaller pages they don't cache that oh, that's not the right website. That Google was, because Google crawls everything.
Right. It would be nice if Google would say donate some money to the Internet Archive to keep this going.
That would be good too.
But like I don't feel like, I mean, we shouldn't be relying on Google to keep the history of the internet. Google is a private company that is clearly shown that it's not necessarily always acting in everyone's best interest. So, and it was never doing that. So, like, yes, you're assuming that they have this data somewhere. I bet they do, but they never gave it to you as a user. They only gave you the most recent version. So therefore, it wasn't really necessary. I don't know what motivated them specifically to get rid of it. Maybe they looked and saw that no one was using it. That not enough people were using it.
Yeah. Almost certainly that's it. Because again, the web is more stable today. And it's also more dynamic. So getting a cached version of a page is not necessarily useful, because that page has likely changed. There's always stuff.
It's useful if you want to not have changed. It's useful if you want to not have changed. So,
Which is, for example, somebody Google's goal.
No, not Google's goal, and probably not the goal of the person running the website either, right? So, like, what you really want to do is catch, wait a second, you put this thing up that you shouldn't have had there, and then you took it down, or you changed the wording, or whatever. Like, that's what you want the cache for, is to catch things out, or look at the history of something or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can't, the truth is you can't trust even media companies to maintain a backlog. Like, this is something, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but wasn't there a story, I think, about a year ago about CNET going and deleting a whole bunch of old articles because somebody at their company said, "Oh, it's not good for SEO for us to have all these old articles. Nobody needs them anyway. So we have too many URLs."
Yeah, it was August.
And people who are, I have to tell you, as someone who works in the publishing biz, this is a constant push pull between journalists and business people. Like, the business people at any company, I'm not saying this happens per se at my company because we haven't gone through taking a bunch of stuff down, but they don't understand the concept of something being archival for archival purposes. Like, oh, but we're serving the page today. Why, why should, the information on it's outdated. Why should we still have that? Right. That's what a lot of business people think. Like, why are we still serving this thing if it's old?
Because you looked up a story from 20 years ago doing research that we just talked about. That's why.
Right. Because, so, the thing is, right, there's a lot of value, right? Because maybe you want to know what people said at the time about, maybe I want to know what people said about the original iPhone when it first came out.
Sure.
Right? Maybe I want to know. Maybe I'm shopping for something on eBay, and I see it's a used product, and I still want it. There's so much.
You see something that looks interesting, and maybe you want to go back and find reviews of that product. I do it all the time.
Now, we used to have a concept, I don't know if they still do this, of microfiche in the library, right? You go to the library. Now, this was a pain in the butt, but you could go to the library and you could go and look through the films, and you could find an old magazine or an old newspaper issue or whatever, and there it was. But unfortunately, a lot of websites, the people who run them, think of them more like a TV show, a TV broadcast than a magazine. And so they're like, hey, this isn't, print this once and it's, and it's the record. Like, if we're still showing this, it shouldn't be there, right? So this is where...
Think of it as if it's a social media feed. Once it scrolls past, it's gone forever.
Right. So, so the thing is, it's unfortunate that we don't. You can't count, like, even Wikipedia, right? How many times have you been on Wikipedia and you saw like a source that they used for something, but the source might not be there anymore, right?
Gone.
The source link might be gone, right? And it'll say like, they'll say like retrieved on this day, right? So, like, in a sense, the cache is important because it maintains the history, but Google's not the one maintaining that. The Internet Archive is.
Right. Exactly. And it would be great if whatever data Google has, they don't just hit delete on, they donate over to the Internet Archive. But yeah, Google's the wrong company, the wrong place for that. I agree. It is always sad when something as old as that on the web disappears. But yeah, there are people who do it better. That's what they do, and it's better to have it in their hands for sure.
When I start my own search engine,
No, say let me stop this.
no, it's not important.
Hold on.
I was just going to say, when I start my search engine, I'll have that
I have
feature.
to stop this.
Okay.
Give me a second. God, that's that double click that I was saying.
Okay.
Okay, boom. Back to this brand. All right. What were you gonna say?
When I start my search engine, it will have cache. It'll have a cache from the Internet Archive built in.
You have been talking about building your own search engine for so long. The list of features is getting longer.
Just keeps growing. Pretty soon it'll be Google.
Oh no,
Okay.
I don't think you're evil. I don't think it'll be Google. Oh, we got to figure out how to put all your ideas together into one fascinating pitch.
Sounds good. Anyway, I'm sorry. We can cut now.
This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. So when it comes to content creation, copyright infringement is a big concern, or should be. There are a number of ways of dealing with it. Yeah, we talk about it a lot in terms of AI and where copyright infringement comes in there. But there's another place that's really common, and that is including external media in your audio or video. For example, you're watching or listening to this. There was just music a few seconds ago. That music, we own the rights to, and so there's no concerns with our using it in our production. But there are other ways of dealing with music. You can not have any. You can have music that you have written or commissioned. You can have licensed music, which is the route that we go. That can be a little expensive. But depending on what you're doing, it's worth it. And then you can use regular music. Two ways of dealing with that. One, you can deal with the licensing that the platform that you are publishing through provides. That gives up full control to somebody else. Or you can just ignore the law and do whatever you want and wait to get smacked around. For example, I have so far issued 11 DMCA takedown notices just from our CES coverage. So
For the music or for something else?
for the video from the show that has been illegally downloaded and republished. So,
oh man, we found someone doing something horrible.
Huh?
We found someone doing something absolutely evil and horrible. A new exciting form of AI plagiarism where it scrapes articles from our site like in real time, but then changes the words a little bit using an AI.
Okay.
And it takes almost every article that we've written. Like, that's how bad it is.
Fascinating.
But anyway, and we're trying to get them to stop, but you can imagine it's not easy to reach. If it's a website, it's not easy to reach them.
Yeah. See, and that's the Wild West, do whatever you want kind of a thing. And that is never the thing that I recommend. But I also don't recommend letting someone else be in charge of your licensing. And here's why. This week, the relationship between the Universal Music Group, UMG, and TikTok came to an end. And so what happened is, if you had used any UMG music in one of your TikTok videos, the video showed up as muted. Not the part that had the music in it. So if you just used a short clip from their licensing agreement somewhere in your video, it's a 90-second video and you used 5 seconds of a Taylor Swift song, all 90 seconds are gone. No audio. Bye-bye. Which is a little different than how like Meta deals with audio violations. They will just mute the section that's in violation. That's not how TikTok did it. They just whoop, whole video, no sound. And for a platform that thrives on dance and lip sync videos, muted videos not great, right? And so that is building your brand on somebody else's land. I have long talked in the creator space about why it's a bad idea, whether it be, platforms or whatever. There's a reason. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, there's a reason why at the top of the episode, if you're not watching live, we tell you to go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. Why? Because we own that. We can move it somewhere else to another host, whatever, and your experience won't be affected. But I don't suspect that YouTube is going to disappear or, terminate us because we don't talk about things that they won't like. But if they did, if we built our brand over there, we're entirely at their mercy. We've seen podcast website hosts disappear overnight. Building your brand on somebody else's land is always a recipe for disaster, and that is exactly what happened here. People relied on a relationship that they didn't have any control over, and millions of videos went silent overnight.
So what I don't understand is, how did they have this license in the first place?
So it was an agreement between TikTok and UMG that music could be used in, and I don't think it's the entire UMG catalog, but I can tell you it was, Taylor Swift and the Beatles, so it wasn't a small, it wasn't the no names on the UMG list, right? People on TikTok, that's a mint, TikTok, could use the music through the platform with licensing. YouTube has a similar thing. There is licensed music through YouTube that you can use, and so long as you use it on YouTube, the licensing is I think perpetual. I think at least on YouTube, it's guaranteed to be a perpetual license. Like if things change with, you know, MacLeod or whatever his name is, Kevin MacLeod. Like if a relationship with him were to change, stuff that's already out there won't be affected, but new stuff will be. That's not what happened here. So they had an agreement. People could use it. There was some royalty structure. Outside of my knowledge, these things exist across all the platforms, but UMG didn't want to work with TikTok anymore.
Well,
so
that's also the problem with licensing, right? Because a lot of times with licensing, these things are also surprisingly in the, I don't know, earlier centuries or whatever, because we were talking before about caching and how, like, the internet's supposed to be forever, but there's a lot of people who think of it as, oh, if I see your article from 20 years ago, you're showing it to me now, and I expect certain things. And I know that I don't know if I hope that they have changed this, but there used to be some of these photo companies used to have things where, oh yeah, you could use this photo for 6 months. What do you mean? I'm going to go and delete an article from 6 months ago?
Yep.
A year ago? Like,
I had a thing. We did an interview a number of years ago with Jason Paul something. He was doing the Zelda Symphony, the Legend of Zelda Symphony. No, it wasn't that one. It was Rewind or Reverb or something. It was another one of his music symphonies. We were told you can record the performance. However, you only have the license to it for 2 weeks. Well, then what good is that?
Right. What good is that? Exactly. I mean, it's all too complicated. In this respect, by the way, I think YouTube now has an AI music generator on it, so you can get AI music.
I was on a focus group for that before it was announced, and I quoted you in the focus group. I felt so bad for the poor guy that was running the focus group, because he was not prepared for me.
Right. I mean, the thing is, I almost but don't feel sorry for the I almost but don't see the use case of that. Like, no, I see the use case. I almost, like, music is quite expensive, and like, if you need, like, background music for things, it can be pricey, and I can see why people would want a solution that's cheap or free, and doesn't have somebody coming after them in the future. So
yeah, for sure. My recommendation, motionarray.com. We've been using them for years. I have my license document. No problem. Now, for some reason, every episode I have to re-upload the license document to YouTube for your new music, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's messed up. I'm trying to remember the name of did I send you this? There's an AI music service that will produce songs for you that have, like, that you will they'll either create the lyrics, or you can feed them the lyrics, and it has like an AI singer in it. And it's actually pretty good quality. And it did make me think that, like, did I tell you I came up with a Tom's Hardware theme song?
So
I mean, you sent me a lot of music at one point.
Yeah. So, okay. Yes. So maybe that was right. So I actually finally finished the theme song, and I'm like, and I pretty much wrote all the lyrics, but like I had taken one thing that they gave me and I kind of wrote a whole bunch of lyrics around it. And then I realized, like, if I were to actually hire a professional musician to like write a song, to perform a song like this, oh man, it would be thousands, right? But and no one at my job is going to pay even $50 for that. But because they don't see the the value of it. But it is the kind of thing that I would totally. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Oh, Suno, that's what it is. Suno AI.
I like Benchmark Inferno. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah. Well, I have the one that we have. The working one I have now is called Overclocked Knowledge.
Okay.
And the problem is I have to either get the expanded one where I can do more than like 40-second clips at a time, or I have to have enough credits that I can stitch together like 8 or 10 40-second clips. But I'm telling you, anyway, point being, music is expensive, music is difficult, and licenses expire, so it is really difficult. It is really difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it is. But the trade-off is, if you let somebody else be in charge of it, there's always the possibility that it just disappears.
Yep.
Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always enjoy our live viewers. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. See, there we go. I didn't say go to YouTube. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. As I say it out loud, I realize if you are there right now, it's still CES branded. I'll have to fix that tonight. If you can't join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. Of course, you'll find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. There is a lot going on. I have a whole bunch of products to do some unboxings on as soon as I have a second that's not dedicated to editing other videos. And some interesting product reviews. We've got some cool headphones out there. I have a water heater cleaner or something. All kinds of interesting stuff to do unboxings and reviews on. You never know what weird thing is going to show up. I've got headphones, I've got a gaming computer, and I've got some sort of IoT water heater cleaner. So, no telling. So expect that at some point. As you might have noticed, there have been a couple of new changes here in the studio. There are some more coming. Pretty excited about, so watch out for that as well. And with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you back next time. Ciao.